I want to ask a question. What if it didn't just break? Have you ever bought something and you wondered whether or not it was set up to fail? If companies can't replace and manufacture more and get more out there, they put themselves out of business. And we all know that something we buy today is not expected to last that long. At least the plastic casing is going to get old and crack long before the insides break. And we know too that it's much cheaper to chuck out that old TV than to even pay a repair person to repair it. So how is this not the same in other scenarios? We've got issues of a dam that's ready to collapse. We've got issues of, we could just go down the list. But today, I wanted to take special look at the concept of nuclear power plants. What if it didn't just break? So let's take a peek at a few articles that I have loaded up for us today. This article was from actually 2 weeks ago now, June 15th, and this was in the New York Post. The title is Hong Kong Watching Chinese Nuclear Plant After Leak Reported. What if it didn't just break? And that might be an odd concept. And before we go more into this detail, let's just take a few steps down here. So here, this is from 2017, and this is from Washington. It's a Washington school. It says Henry M. Jackson School of International Studies at University of Washington. And the title here is Cyber Attack on Critical Infrastructure, Russia and the Ukrainian Power Grid Attacks. Starting to sound a little familiar. And it looks like, there we go. On December 2015, the control, and again, a little delay, right? I told you this article came out in 2017. This is 2015. It takes a little time for the case studies to see the light. But in December of 2015, the control centers of 3 Ukrainian electricity distribution companies were remotely accessed. Taking control of the facility's SCADA systems, malicious actors opened breakers at some 30 distribution substations in the capital city, Kiev, and western region, causing more than 200,000 consumers to lose power. Nearly a year later, in 2016, a single transmission substation in northern Kiev lost power. These instances of sabotage took place on the tail of a political revolution in Kiev, the annexation of Crimea, and amid military clashes in the eastern Donetsk, and I'm sorry, I don't have the pronunciation of those regions. Governments and cybersecurity companies have attributed the hacks to Russian group with suspected, although unclear, associations with the Russian government. Russian hackers have a long history of participating in political and military conflicts in Eastern Europe and consistently carry out espionage operations around the world in support of Russian interests. So the articles here, if you want to dig deeper, as you know, I just kind of grab the headlines and move on. This one is from CISOMAG, so CISOMAG. And this was 2018, so about 7 months after that last one, power plants, cybersecurity threats and risks. Power plant networks are under constant attack from Chinese, Russian, and other unknown hackers across the world 24 hours a day and 365 days a year. Hackers' goal is to breach critical infrastructure, such as a power plant's external firewalls, to gain access to the internal networks and find a way into the control system. It's got to be some kind of a trophy. Hackers typically use port scanners, password guessing software, and other readily available internet tools to perform nonstop attacks because, they don't have to bring the whole system down in order to get in the door, right? This isn't a system where you've got to find a door and make sure you get the key and get it open. This is a system where all you need is the absolute smallest touch point and you're in. These tools look for and exploit any potential that could be used to access internal networks. Once inside, the hacker can continue to run tools against control networks to exploit any weaknesses that might allow them to take control of the plant control systems. Now, of course, these are talking on more of a software hardware implementation crossover. They talk here about social engineering hacks, right? Getting somebody to give you the password because you've tricked them into giving it to you. Phishing schemes is well known that comes in via email. Let's take a look at this. Social engineering attacks such as ransomware are used to trick a user into clicking an attachment. Phishing schemes in order to extract and encrypt data files. This enables a hacker to extort money and decrypt information. The more access a user has to a system environment, the greater the damage can be done. Limiting administrative privileges reduces these risks. So this is really an interesting article if you want to go more into the roundabout, but let's keep down this path. So that was 2018. Now we look here, we've got a news article. This is ABC News out of Washington. Breaking news: nuclear power plant cyber attacks. Companies running US power plants are targeted. And the date on this was back in 2017. Hackers targeting power plants. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security warn. Let's click a little bit further here. This is CNN Business, and this was dated June of 2021. So that was almost exactly a month ago from the recording of this. Hackers have a devastating new target. White House pushes companies to take cyber attack threat more seriously. A major gas pipeline, dozens of government agencies, a Florida city's water supply, and now one of the world's top meat producers. The last few months have seen a sharp rise in cyber attacks, often distributing products and services that are key to our everyday lives. Many of those attacks have used ransomware, a set of tools that can let hackers gain access to the computer systems and disrupt or lock them until they get paid. But ransomware isn't new, but there is a growing trend of hackers targeting critical infrastructure and physical business operations, which makes the attacks more lucrative for bad actors and more devastating for victims. And with the rise of remote work during the pandemic, significant vulnerabilities have been revealed that only make it easier to carry out such attacks. The US Department of Justice in April created a ransomware task force after declaring 2020 the worst year ever for extortion-related attacks. The issue only seems to be getting worse. The first half of 2021 has already seen a 102% increase in ransomware attacks compared to the beginning of the previous year, according to a report from cybersecurity firm Checkpoint Software. That doesn't even factor in the most recent events, including the announcement Wednesday from a ferry operator in Martha's Vineyard, Cape Cod, and Nantucket, that it was hit by a ransomware attack. So the US government is now ratcheting up efforts to address the threat of ransomware, but experts warn that without significant cooperation and investment from the private sector, these attacks are likely here to stay. So one of the big challenges that we have here is who's going to pay for this? We've had small businesses absolutely decimated over the last year and a half. And when I was working with small businesses, even 4 to 5 years ago, they didn't have the extra money to pay for a cybersecurity digital infrastructure. So what they would do is use other programs or other companies that had that infrastructure. So in fact, if they had to maintain customer profiles and credit card information, they would outsource that, because it's just really impossible for a small business to hire a dedicated IT and or have the understanding to network with a contractor in that realm. Because again, we're not looking for a door that's open or a door we can have a lock, a key. All we need is a small space or a small link, and they're in. So let's take another look here. So this, of course, is the pipeline. So this was on CNBC. This was May of 2021, Colonial Pipeline paid $5 million ransom to the hackers. Now, this really hit the news, so we heard quite a bit about the payout, the receiving the money back. A lot of information went back and forth. Colonial Pipeline paid a ransom to hackers after the company fell victim to a sweeping cyber attack. One source familiar with the situation confirmed to CNBC, a U.S. official who spoke on the condition of anonymity, there's a mouthful, confirmed to NBC News that Colonial paid nearly $5 million as a ransom to the cyber criminals. It was not immediately clear when the transaction took place. So there's more information on that here, but I want to bring this back to where I started. Hong Kong is watching a Chinese nuclear plant after the leak reported. This was reported by Associated Press, and it's dated again 2 weeks ago, June 15th. Chief executive speaks during a press conference at government headquarters. This is a picture they posted here. China's government says Tuesday, no abnormal radiation was detected outside a nuclear power plant near Hong Kong following a news report of a leak. While Hong Kong leader said her administration was closely watching the facility. The operators released few details, but nuclear experts said that based on their brief statement, gas might be leaking from the fuel rods inside the reactor in the west part of Hong Kong. In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson gave no confirmation of a leak or other details. He responded to reporters' questions saying, there is nothing abnormal detected in the radiation levels surrounding the plant. In Hong Kong, radiation levels Tuesday were normal, according to the Hong Kong Observatory. Now, we don't know what is truly being reported and what is not, but we do want to know how the leak was created. And as we know, all of us in cybersecurity have studied the case of the remote access into a nuclear plant, whereby not attacking merely the software, but going after the actual physical infrastructure, meaning turning on and off an engine or burning up or running at different speeds or oscillating, you can get bolts to loosen. And when bolts loosen, it's been hacked and you have a minor problem. So we're not talking about something that would just be the way we think the picture should fit. An attack can come in many, many different sizes and shapes. And I return to the question as we started here. Nuclear power plant. What if it didn't just break?